I'm here with Powys Libraries. They are going to give a presentation on how they have responded to the lockdown and the COVID-19 outbreak.
So, Powys Library Service, I'm Kay Thomas, Principal Librarian, and I'm joined today by some of my colleagues from the Library Service.
Well, I'm Jonathan G, and I drive the mobile library van in the north of Powys on 2 days a week.
I'm Andy Jones. I'm Senior Library Assistant in Agaya, Brecon Library, and that's also the museum facility as well.
I'm Janet Mulready. I work in Ystwyth Library as a Library Assistant.
I'm Trish Thomas. I'm Reader Development Librarian for the whole of the county.
My name's Tracy Cavender and I'm a Library Assistant at Newtown Library.
So a little bit of context about Powys Libraries. So the geographical context, it's quite a challenging county to deliver library services because it's so enormous. It covers a quarter of Wales. We were very much a place-based service, a physical place at the heart of our communities. We put on lots of wide-ranging events and we work with many partners and volunteers to deliver a huge range of benefits, health and well-being, learning activities, overcoming isolation. And then, of course, March 23rd, everything changed. The Prime Minister announced libraries must close. Immediately then, our immediate challenge was just to get hold of everyone, finding all the home phone numbers, home email addresses, getting in touch with everyone saying, no, don't come in tomorrow. And then to start communicating with our service users, really, not to worry about their library books, that everything would be renewed automatically, we wouldn't be charging any fines, and to try to encourage them to use our online library service, BorrowBox. So as an all-Wales platform, and this is a really good example of good practice, all library services in Wales share a platform for e-books, e-audiobooks, e-magazines and e-comics. So from there on, this is an example of things that we've done, really. We've kept in touch with our borrowers by phone and by email, and we've made thousands and thousands of phone calls to our borrowers, and the staff will tell you about that afterwards. We've moved a lot of our activities online, and Facebook has been particularly active. We've promoted our e-resources successfully and supported readers to using them. We've trialled a new device loan scheme with partners, and that's proving quite challenging because obviously we were aware that a lot of people were very isolated. They had no way of getting in touch with anybody else. So we were trying to look at, well, could we lend them? They can't come in the library now and use our computers, where they normally would be in possibly all day, every day, some of them. Could we look at lending devices to them instead? So we've been working with Supporting People, which is part of housing support, and Accessibility Powys, Scope and Mind, looking at how we could do that in Powys. And we're now moving to phases 2 and 3 of library service recovery, really, which is computer use by appointment, and also then looking at allowing the public back into the libraries for browsing. So it's very much about designing new safe systems for those sorts of work. We also in Powys, we do what we call customer services, which is the face-to-face council services and things like bus passes and blue badges. We support people with those. So it's looking at how we reintroduce that, just printing and copying, verification of documents, those types of activities, looking at safe ways to reintroduce those services. So as I said, we've learned to communicate differently with staff and also with our customers, really, our borrowers. We've developed lots of new skills, and Tracy and Trish are examples of this. We've been making vlogs and learning how to support people remotely and doing online activities. And many of the staff have been redeployed to other services and roles, which means that they've learnt a great deal about other services. So we've had staff in, let's say, the Powys Association of Voluntary Organisations, where they were sorting out things like prescription deliveries. We've had staff who are involved in domiciliary care. We've had staff on the contact tracing and on the welfare calls. And the bulk of the rest of the library service have also been involved with supporting people in contacting vulnerable people across Powys, mainly our own borrowers, so the elderly or the vulnerable in any way. So what have we learned? Gosh, I think we've learned lots. We'd certainly know, well, we knew this before, but our library staff are versatile and multi-skilled, very talented and able to turn their hands to anything. We can share our learning and develop our IT skills. We're even more open-minded and more willing to work with partners to deliver for our residents, and others are keen to work with us. We have a big team of volunteers now across the county who are willing to do doorstep deliveries of order and collect books. We can successfully introduce and develop new services, such as our order and collect. And we have also discovered that libraries remain a much loved and trusted brand, even at a distance. It was interesting when, with all the welfare calls, that people were happier receiving a call from their local library staff than somebody that they didn't know from County Hall. The next stages are quite difficult because staff, volunteers and public really are in different stages of anxiety around coronavirus. So it makes it quite difficult to move forward. What one person is comfortable with in a library, others are not. So we're trying to find that balance really of keeping everybody safe. We have people who are challenging us, so why are we not open like the shops? Why can't we just walk in? And others who are very pleased that no, this is a good, safe way to do it. So trying to find that balance is difficult. We still struggle with IT, really. We're talking about all the different platforms that there are electronically. Signal drops quite a lot in a rural authority like ours. And our staff have different levels of skills and are quite anxious about remote support for IT. And of course, we know, along with all local authorities across the UK, there's going to be significant financial pressure as we pay for everything that's been delivered during COVID. So what will we continue to do? I think for the long term, we have to continue to develop our online presence and our digital activities. I can't see our physical activities restarting anytime soon, certainly while we still have the 2-metre social distancing. And as we go into the winter, we need to continue order and collect library books for those who don't want to venture into the building. We need to seek out funding for the future to further develop our digital skills and share them with others. Such as developing online classes, for example, where we would have sat with someone and shown them how to use something. Can we do that as a vlog or as a Canva training? And we're also seeking ways to support the local economic regeneration of the authority.
Rolling the clock back to that early lockdown phase, we developed a program which we called Supporting People, which really was looking at the social dimension of the library service, and particularly old people. It was before people were confident that everyone was going to be basically fed. Yes, the county council had their social services based program of contacting people, but our Supporting People calls just used our lists of people over the age of 70, and we cold called them. And I'm delighted to say that very few people refused those calls or hung up on us. I can't say none, but for the most part, people who are suspicious when they lift the phone on a number they don't know, as soon as you say the words from Powys Libraries, and the door is open. They like us. And the response we had from people who were just pleased that we were in touch was fantastic. That was really quite heartwarming. I think we've got a little bit of a balancing act here because it's quite staff intensive to keep this going. I've got a horrible feeling that if you look at the raw numbers involved, it's a lot of effort for the number of people we're helping. However, the people we are helping are intensely grateful and wouldn't lose it for the world.
I just wanted to ask, what plans have you got in the future to potentially keep this going post-lockdown or post-COVID? Would that be, if that proved necessary, or if people wanted it?
I think we plan to keep order and collect going for a long time, certainly, yes. We think there'll be a good market for it. It's
been absolutely brilliant to improve our collaboration. As she mentioned, we don't get to see each other. I've met people for the first time ever via Teams. And we've set up some really, really good team working on various creative projects. One of the things we've been working on is doing an enchanted hour. Some of the branches we're doing adult story times, especially in relation to our work with people living with dementia. So we're trying to aim to an online offer of that now and working through teams to collaborate with people who are just totally impossible to visit and talk to directly. We've been bouncing some really good ideas on sharing the work of contacting publishers to get permissions and copyrights sorted. So very soon we hope to launch a digital adult story time, all due to team collaboration.
Tracy, you've been really active on Facebook in Newtown, haven't you? Your Newtown
I have
Facebook has been incredible.
Yeah, we've tried to keep very busy on Facebook. We've got a stuffed crocodile at the library who went on some adventures during the holidays. And we were able to use Carwyn as part of the introduction to the reopening procedure for the order and collect. So I think that was useful as well. We did a video. We did two videos. We did a Welsh one and an English one of how the procedure would work, because although you can write things down for people and put posters up, a lot of people are sort of visual learners, and it's easier to get the message to people visually through a video. I've never been afraid of making a fool of myself, and there's several staff here that don't mind doing that either. So you know, I didn't mind doing it at all, and it seemed to go down very well. And then I was aware, as I'm sure Trish knows, usually before the summer holidays, the few years that I've been here, I've had quite a big role in going around visiting the schools to introduce the summer reading challenge and try and enthuse the pupils there to take part, to enthuse them about books. And it's been good for me. They've got a face and a name they can recognise as being associated with the library. So this year I really missed that, and then I go in September, you know, and try and keep that continuity up for them to give out the medals and things. So I have missed that this year. We did think about sort of doing assemblies, you know, via technology, but that didn't happen. It's all been too busy for that, and schools have been too busy. So instead, what I did was I did a little video again and put it on Facebook of me just talking about the reading challenge, explaining how it was going to work this year because it's all different. So obviously that'll be going to parents, not children, but in case they thought it wasn't happening this year.
I'm interested to know, considering you've got some quite interesting approaches in how you've responded to lockdown and COVID-19. Do you find these sorts of activities have increased interest in the work you do as a library?
Oh, I think so, definitely. And I think that we've had to, maybe things have been a bit staid and a bit, not boring is not the right word, but I think we've had to make things more engaging. You know, you need to get people engaged. For them to, and I think it has. I think a lot of people, and we have a lot of messages through to our Facebook page, questions that we answer. You know, a lot of our regularly ask questions about the reading challenge, and it's nice to again be able to answer those people and have that communication with them. I think we've improved our Facebook activities and coverage definitely during this time.
Yeah, Tracy, I'm interested by that. I think down here in Brecon,
yeah,
a lot of our cell, and I don't want to ignore the work that some of my colleagues did with Facebook and so on. However, a lot of our push was towards the older and the vulnerable customers, and without really thinking about it, the younger age group is an area that's come at us. And one of the things that's driven that is parents dealing with homeschooling.
Yeah.
Some of the schools have been really quite demanding in what they've been suggesting as homework programs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, moving everything online has been quite difficult. And because I was out of it through redeployment at the beginning, you know, I had 10 weeks where I wasn't doing anything library-based. So coming back into it as being at the beginning of June was quite a challenge, really, because I'd been out for so long, I didn't know what was going on. But then trying to sort the summer reading challenge at the same time, you know. So we are doing lots now through the children's Facebook page of online story times, pre-recorded. The staff in Brecon have been amazing. I've spent 2 afternoons down there and we've just recorded stories. So those are going really, really well. We're adding craft activity into the comments of the video, and we've had a couple back now that parents have actually done as a result of hearing the story. The boys have enjoyed. It's been tough, but I think now we're getting there. And I did actually have a message on Facebook from an author the other day thanking me for everything that I am doing to promote reading to children, so, and the fun of reading. So that's made me feel better.
And John, your customers are mainly the other end of the scale normally, aren't they?
Yeah, my customers are pretty much of the older generation, and a lot of them are not massively mobile, and they live out in the middle of nowhere. So they've sort of been left behind by COVID. Yeah, when lockdown started, I spent a lot of time at home ringing round my mobile readers, and they were chuffed to hear from me, and it was nice to be keeping in touch with them. And then I did a lot of work phoning round people from the Newtown Library as well, because I work here 1 day a week on a Monday. A lot of them, when I said, oh, you can use BorrowBox, they weren't interested. That wasn't their bag. They want a book, you know, and they want to choose it for themselves. So similarly, when I mentioned the order and collect, it's, well, you know, I live 30 miles from Newtown Library. I'm not going to go to Newtown Library to pick up a bag of books that someone else has chosen for me. So a lot of the things that we've offered they're not what anyone wants, which is quite understandable, really. You know, a lot of them are scared, and a lot of them wanted to just stay at home, and some of them actually didn't go out of their houses for a couple of months because they were so scared of this pandemic.
Mentioning that, Kay was mentioning in her presentation about sort of finding that balance. We're now sort of coming into the era where public spaces like libraries are sort of beginning to reopen. So how do you go about that, finding that balance between sort of retaining the benefits you've found through the things you've been forced through these days of social distancing, with sort of reverting back to a new normal, as it were? How do you go about sort of finding that sort of balance?
It's really quite difficult, yes, and it'll take us some time to work through it. At the moment, we're just working out one-way systems for browsing, sort of making your way through a library and a museum. In some of our cases, we have a couple of co-located libraries and museums. You know, one-way systems through, so taking away the chairs so people can't sit down, which is very counterintuitive, where we normally would encourage people to be sitting down, spending time in the library, trying to keep them flowing through, not touching anything if we can avoid it. But in the museum in Brecon, for example, we had lots and lots of iPads with, you know, children would touch to go through into further information. Now we've had to turn all of those off, so they're just on like a rolling screen instead. They just read. So yeah, huge changes really to try to find that balance of a way through, and it keeps evolving. It changes day by day, and that's one of the biggest challenges again for staff and for users really, is that things do change virtually day by day.
Yes, really, I'd just like to agree with Kay on that. It's things do change every day that you come into work. Something seems to be different. And I would just like to say as well that there's an area of our community that I'm particularly worried about, and those are, the library is a very safe place for a lot of people with mental health issues. And we have a lot of people using the library as a safe place to be. It's warm, it's free, and I'm worried as to what has happened or will happen to those people during this time.
Yes, that's a good point. And something we need to look at possibly is sessions for different user groups, but then you don't want to add people. isn't it?
No, that's an issue that's really concerning me and has done since the
Yeah.
beginning of lockdown, really, because I'm sure it's the same in every library. As you get your regulars in, you know who they are. They've got a lot of issues, and this has been such an important part of their lives.
So lots of challenges then, Alex, as you can see. And I think we don't know really what the take-up will be, how the public will feel about using library services again.
Yeah, it sounds like you're responding to the challenges posed by COVID in some really interesting ways, and I'll look forward to seeing how they develop.